here today. This is great fun. Pizza, Democrats, Jimmy Panetta, Zoe Lofgren,
and Anna Azhu.
Anna, Evan Lowe is here, and Gail Pellerin, running for the Assembly, is here. Did everyone meet Gail? Mm-hmm. Good. My choice for the state legislature. This is a very important time in the life of our country. We, as public officials, as lifetime Democrats, we care deeply about democracy. We care deeply about democracy. We see on the other side of the world today, the Ukrainian people fighting, many of them to their last breath, to protect their freedoms, to defend democracy. And I'm proud to tell you that we, in our votes in the Congress, are making sure that America is the arsenal of democracy, just as it was in World War II. And it's a beautiful thing that you applaud. It's a beautiful thing that you applaud because I know that it comes from a very deep place. But when I say we voted, the we is very important. It's the essential ingredient to have the right people there to cast those votes. This is history shaping. It's historic. We're in a historic moment. And as they fight so hard to defend their democracy, protect their freedom, we have to protect our own democracy, our own. We see what the Republican legislatures are doing across the country. They don't want to see minorities vote in this country. They have passed legislation to suppress the vote. And I think it's like a dagger in the heart of democracy to be able to manipulate votes after they've been cast. So if they don't like the outcome of the election, they can change it. Jimmy Panetta will never, on his watch, allow these things to happen. Jimmy Panetta is a patriot. You know that his last name, is synonymous with public service. His father served in the Congress. He was chairman of the Budget Committee more than once. Nobody knew the budget better than Leon. He served as CIA director. He served as Secretary of Defense. He served as the President's Chief of Staff. But I'm glad that Jimmy's staying in the Congress. But it's up to all of us to make sure that he actually does stay in the Congress. This is, that the lines changed. In Jimmy's district, I don't know what the hell this redistricting commission did. It was Zoe's district. This is the best way to explain it. It was Zoe's district, and Jimmy had his district. Now, they turned it like upside down. Now, what Zoe had most of, Jimmy has, and what Jimmy had, I have some of it, and what Jimmy had, Zoe has. But you know what? Don't think of lines. Think of the person. Think of the person. Zoe's going to tell you other marvelous things about Jimmy. You know what we all want? We want honest people. We want people that have integrity, that you can trust. We're 3,000 miles away. You don't know what the heck we're doing over there. No, really. You're living your lives here. You want to trust who is there, that you are in the best hands. He has integrity. No one works harder. He's an honest man. He's a wonderful husband and father. He has a family like yours. You know what? He's one of all of us. So you're going to be in good hands with Jimmy. And we need you to go out and tell your friends, your relatives, your uncles, your aunts, your cousins, the ones that you call relatives that are not your relatives, your neighbors. Put up a sign. People love lawn signs. They see you supporting someone. That's personal. That's personal. So word of mouth. Your family, your friends, your neighbors, trust what you say. They don't know that we're here. They don't even know who Jimmy is. They don't know who Zoe and I are. They probably don't know most of us except you. So, talk over the fence and tell them about this very, very fine man. He's honest, he's decent, he has integrity. Of course, he has a beautiful mind, and he's already exhibited that. But integrity in voting. We know lots of members, they go to put their card in the machine. You know what I see on their hand? White knuckles. Jimmy is not a white knuckle voter. He knows when he goes to put that card in the machine exactly what he's doing, who he's voting for, and why. So you're going to be in great hands, and I'm thrilled that so many of you came out today. So, am I to introduce you? You're next, yes. All right, now this woman that's standing next to me, when I was on my way over here, when I'm in the car with my staff, I love to reminisce and tell them a lot of stories. So many years ago, there was a retirement. Don Edwards, the beautiful Don Edwards retired. Some of you may remember him. And there was a very big race.
And we got Cambria and also Evergreen. So the logistics are daunting, but each one of us is going to make sure that we do what's necessary to listen to the people we represent. Jimmy, before he was ever in elected office, he was a naval intelligence officer. He believes in public service. He was a district attorney, and now in Congress. He's someone who's smart, who has tremendous integrity, and who's going to do just a terrific job representing you. So thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you, everyone. Before I speak, I want to just kind of let you know, obviously being here in Almaden Valley, I didn't grow up here, but we're fortunate enough to have representation from somebody who does at the state level. Now, I knew Almaden Valley because I was a wrestler in high school. And so we would come up here and we would wrestle Leland High. And I would get my butt kicked all the time. So that was one thing I knew about Leland High. Then also, Leland High also had Pat Tillman, who we all know, the Army Ranger, Arizona Cardinals football player. He went to Leland High. But also, how lucky are we, like I said, to have Evan Lowe, who went to Leland High and now represents this area as well. And so I'd like to have our hometown boy come up and say a few words as well.
Congressman, you're too kind. I told the congressman that I had no choice to come here because I'm celebrating my Mother's Day lunch with my mother who lives down the block. But of course I did not prepare and tell her to come, and she said, I'm gardening, I can't possibly be seen. So instead of bringing Mom here, we're going to bring some Panetta and the lawn signs to Mom's home shortly hereafter.
Perfect starting accent.
But to all of the friends who are here to recognize the extraordinary presence of our true gems in our members of Congress. We all know how busy our schedules are. Can you imagine how busy their schedules are? And for all three to be at the same place at the same time is done with intentionality and demonstrates the true convictions of our democracy, but also clearly the love of one another and as that of public servants. So we just, again, opportunity to recognize your incredible service as well. And just one last note before, I know that we want to hear from the congressman, not from myself. Yes, I have a deep sense of pride of my community here, graduating from Los Alamitos Bret Harte Leland and being here in Almaden Valley. And I received a call during redistricting from then Congressman and current Congressman Jimmy Panetta. He said, Evan, help me understand Almaden Valley. Do you have some people I could talk to understand? What are these issues? I'm genuine and sincere in this. And I figure sometimes, you get all these kind of calls and things get lost and translation get busy. But we're here today in Almaden Valley, understanding that it's not Cambrian that you also represent, but Cambria, that you're representing. Not here in San Jose,
Nice,
Cambrian,
nice.
but Cambria. But it's just to show that you truly care for our communities, and again, from our colleagues here, we are in deep gratitude and deep service to all of you. And please, I hope that you also tell us what we can do to support you in your efforts, because it is also a sacrifice that you are making for all of us. This is about life and death. So, Congressman, we're here to support you and our congressional delegation as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblymember Lowe. I truly appreciate that. It does mean a lot to me that you're from here, representing here, and basically fight for our values up in Sacramento. So thank you very much. And then, of course, Anna and Zoe. You don't know how damn lucky we are to have Anna Eshu and Zoe Lofgren.
Yes.
I mean that. Look, back in Washington, D.C., these two members of Congress are pillars for our democratic value. I'm telling you, I cannot stress that enough. Anna Eshu, as the chairwoman of the Health Subcommittee on Energy and Commerce. Zoe Lofgren as the chairwoman of the Subcommittee on Immigration in the Judiciary Committee. Two very, very important issues that affect us not just here in our community, affect us throughout our country. Yet they're the point people on that. When our leadership has an issue with those two very important issues, these are the two Congress members that she goes to. And I think that says a lot about them, but that also says a lot about this community and who we choose to send there. But I also got to tell you, as a fellow member of these two, it's absolutely inspiring. Zoe was fortunate, I was fortunate enough to, like I said, have that issue when it came to farmers and farm workers and immigration reform. And Zoe knew that it was important to me. And so she literally brought me in to the negotiations in which for 9 months, Democrats and Republicans led the negotiations, led by Zoe Lofgren, was able to formulate a bill, the Farm Workforce Modernization Act, that basically passed out of the House of Representatives this term and last term as the most bipartisan bill on immigration reform in the past 30 years. Exactly. And then obviously I know if I have a healthcare problem with, or an issue with healthcare, I can go to Anna Eshu. But let me tell you, what inspired me the most was right in the heart of the pandemic. And basically, you think back, we kind of forget this, but you think back and remember everything just literally shut down. And we got that call to go back to Washington, D.C. And I remember the question was, do we go back? Do we get on a plane? Do we go to the airport? The chances of getting COVID, like, well, that's our job. We got to do it. And I remember going to the airport, and who was right there beside me? Anna Eshu and Zoe. They were there. They didn't care. They knew that it was their jobs. And so every single time that I was on the plane, I saw both Anna and Zoe. They were on the plane. And to me, that was inspiring, because I knew that we had a job to do to get us through that pandemic, but also we had leaders like Anna and Zoe who are going to get us to this point right now. And so it's very inspiring. It is one of the best parts of my job are the people I work with, and I can tell you especially Anna and Zoe Lofgren. So thank you. One of the best parts about this job is knowing that you actually can affect people's lives. I cannot stress that enough. And I think that's kind of why I fell into this job. And what I mean by that is growing up, as you heard, in high school, my parents never really talked about politics at the kitchen table, as much as you might find that hard to believe. They really wanted us to live our own lives. And to be frank, they were kind of 70s parents. Like myself and my two brothers did whatever we wanted, to be honest with you. Fortunately, we found athletics. And so I was able to basically understand where my hard work ethic that was ingrained in me at an early age, to apply it to athletics and then obviously to academics once I graduated high school. And so I never knew that I'd be in this position, but I always had a sense of what this position was about and being a member of Congress was about. And I got to admit to you, it wasn't necessarily about the legislation in Washington, D.C. That's how I learned it. how I learned it growing up was not at my kitchen table, but when I would go outside my house, people, and even to this day, make it a point to come up to me and tell me about a personal issue they had that nobody was helping them with. Yet they went to the United States Congress member and they got help. I cannot stress that enough. And being a member now, I am so proud that the casework we do, helping people with an immigration issue, an IRS issue, a Social Security issue, a healthcare, a Medicare issue, basically you're helping them with these personal issues, that is how you can affect their lives. I cannot stress that enough. That's what inspired me to run. I had no idea that I would, being a young high schooler in college, that this is what I was going to do. But I was always affected by that kind of, growing up, we have bumpers that have been put on early on by our family. And the thing that my parents made it a point to talk about was obviously public service and giving back. And the way they did it in my household was every Sunday night we'd have dinner with my grandparents. And my grandfather was an Italian immigrant who came over here in 1921 on the boat called the Providence. And on that boat, and I've been to Ellis Island, and I've seen the ledger. I brought my two daughters, Carrie and I brought our two daughters there, saw the ledger that my grandfather signed. First class had 100 people, second class had 200 people, and third steerage class had 1,800 people. And that's where my grandfather was. On the ledger, he had $5 to his name, and literally his occupation, as they termed it, he was a peasant, is what they termed it. Now, fortunately for me, despite that lack of title and lack of money, he made his way across the country, worked in the copper mines in Wyoming, and thank God got out of there, and ended up down in Monterey, where he ran a restaurant. And literally it was a family affair in that he cooked. My grandmother, Nana Molina, she ran the till. My Uncle Joe, he was the busboy, and my dad was the dishwasher. And back then, child labor laws meant that your children worked, as we all remember. But then, and so basically he sold the restaurant after the war years, and he bought a piece of land out in Carmel Valley, built a house, and that was the house where they raised my father and my uncle. It's the house where I was fortunate enough to be raised with my two brothers. And every Sunday, and then when my grandparents moved out of that house, they built a house on the property next door. And every Sunday we'd go over to dinner. And my father, and I really kind of got sick of this question, as most kids do, of repetitive questions, they would always ask my grandfather, why did you come here? Why did you take the risk? Why did you leave the known to the unknown to come to the known? And which my grandfather always responded, to give his children a better life. Okay, and I believe that is the American dream. And what my parents, though, then told us, because you were allowed to live the reality of that dream, then you damn well better get back to the country and community that gave you those opportunities. So I do believe that that bumper that was set in place basically led me to the position that I am in now. It's why after I graduated Santa Clara Law School, I joined the district attorney's office up in Oakland, about 13 years. It's why during that time I volunteered and signed up with the Navy Reserve, and then volunteered and was mobilized and deployed and served in Afghanistan from 07 to 08. It's also why basically I moved back home to Monterey and was a district attorney there for 6 years. And then when this spot opened up, I ran for it, and I was fortunate enough to win. But I can tell you, I knew I was inspired because in this job, you can affect people's lives by giving them those opportunities that are needed now more than ever. And that's why I believe I'm in this position, because we have to continue to fight to give people opportunities. That's why I've been proud to be the representative of the 20th Congressional District. Now I'm running for the new 19th Congressional District. And let me just kind of go into that real quick. Obviously, what my district contains now, the 20th Congressional District, is all of Monterey County, most of Santa Cruz County, I share with Anna, all of San Benito County, and just a sliver of Santa Clara County, Gilroy. That's it, just a part of Gilroy that I actually share with Congresswoman Laffer. The new 19th Congressional District, bear with me, it goes from east and south San Jose, up over the hills into most of Santa Cruz County now, excluding Watsonville, which Zoe is going to have. It then runs down the Monterey County coastline, capturing where I grew up, Carmel Valley, California, gets in there, goes all the way down to Cambria. Then, once you hit Cambria, you literally shoot east, all the way to the San Luis Obispo Eastern County line. So the most southern town is Atascadero. So literally, it goes from the vineyards of northern San Luis Obispo County to the suburbs of South San Jose. Now, in San Jose, bear with me here, okay? The district comes off the Santa Cruz Hills and encompasses all of Almaden Valley. Take Almaden Expressway all the way up to Capitol Expressway. You hit Capitol Expressway and you shoot east. You take Capitol Expressway all the way to Silverdale, Center Street, turns into Silverdale, which turns into Yerba Buena. Take Yerba Buena under 101. Bear with me, I said, take Yerba Buena under 101.
I'm exhausted.
It hits, I know. It hit, trust me, Anna, trust me. Yerba Buena all the way to Silver Creek, okay? Then you take Silver Creek north and you hit Capitol Expressway again. Then you take Capitol Expressway all the way up to Cunningham Park. Now, mind you, your district goes right to, she and Zoe split Reed Hillview Airport. I go right underneath Reed Hillview, get Cunningham Park, then I go straight out east, and I think there's like an Acres Road, and then I go straight down behind the Guadora, all the way behind Silver Creek, all the way to the villages. Then I hit Anderson Lake, and I get the northern part of Anderson Lake, and Zoe's got the southern part of Anderson Lake. And then I go straight west, and I have western Morgan Hill, back up Almaden Valley, back into Santa Cruz County. Wow. Exactly.
Is anybody lost?
So this is the district, okay? It is a very, very diverse district. But it's also a very, very dynamic district. Like I said, going from the vineyards to the suburbs, all right? It is, though hands down, sorry, Anna and Zoe, I'm going to say this, the most beautiful district, going from Santa Cruz to San Simeon with Hearst Castle.
Cambria.
Exactly. But I think if you look at that district, there are some issues that are very similar to the district I represent now. And as I say it, I have a lot of beauty, I have a lot of bounty with the agriculture, I have military bases, and now I have the suburbs of San Jose, the burbs. And I think if you look at all those issues, those are all issues that we'll continue to fight for in the new 19. Our environment, our beauty, making sure it's protected, and making sure we do everything we can to reduce our carbon output. That's why all three of us are so proud to pass out of the House of Representatives the largest investment in reducing our carbon output in human history with the Build Back Better Act. Our bounty, now Zoe is going to have a lot of bounty now with her agriculture, but like I said, I'm going to have that northern part of San Luis Obispo County. Let me ask you, you heard me say this last time, so you can't answer. Who knows how many wineries are in northern San Luis Obispo County? Anybody guess?
Like 50 or something.
250. Wow. 250 just in northern San Luis Obispo County. That might be all of San Luis Obispo. Just in northern. So I'm going to have a lot of bounty, including my agriculture up in northern Santa Cruz as well. But also with agriculture, trade is very important. And that's obviously very important for many of the employees that live in San Jose as well. Being on the Ways and Means Committee, on the Trade Subcommittee, that's something I work with. So we're making sure that we continue to reduce the tariff barriers and the non-tariff barriers as well. And then obviously with my bases, I know that there are people who are going to say, why do you vote for the defense budget? Reason why I vote for the defense budget, I'll tell you right now. I have 10 military bases in Monterey County that bring in $1.4 billion to the community, that employ over 15,000 people in my community. So I vote for the defense budget because it's not only for our national security, it's for my community security. I also know, being on the Armed Services Committee, that now with the Democrats in charge, we have oversight of that budget. We make sure that climate change is a priority for our military now. We also do things like what I was able to do with the Defense Language Institute, one of my military installations. As you know, the DLI provides language training for our best and brightest in our military. They work very hard, they take a lot of classes, but they weren't getting any degrees out of it. So I passed a bill and put it in the National Defense Authorization Act that says that if you go through your training at DLI, you can get a 4-year degree. You can get a BA out of the DLI. And I'm proud to say that 3 weeks ago, I met the first 2 graduates. And basically, they were so dang proud. Because they knew by going to the DLI, they were not only furthering national security, but by getting that BA through the DLI, they were promoting and solidifying their own personal future security. So that's what we can do on the armed services and with the NDAA. And then, of course, basically, what up here with the housing, with the homes that are here. Affordable housing is the issue that really connects us all together, really connects that district all together. Being on the Ways and Means Committee, we have purview over the tax code. And so we are doing our best to make sure that there are low-income housing tax credits, which are very, very important. To make sure there's the 4% redevelopment and the 9%, 4% rehabilitation and the 9% redevelopment tax credit as well. To make sure that there are those tax credits for the developers who can focus on low-income housing. Yes. Now, obviously, Anna and Zoe know how important it is to make sure that the grants continue to come in. HUD-VASH, Section 8, Continuum of Care, home grants. In my limited time in Congress, I brought in over $100 million through those grants to deal with affordable housing, to deal with homelessness issues, because that's very, very important. That's something we have to continue to work on. Being on the Ways and Means Committee, I also introduced a bill to bring back the first-time home buyers tax credit. When I bought my first house back in 2003, I was able to get that $10,000 tax credit from the federal government. That went away in 2007. I want to bring that back and make it $15,000 because I believe that will help, especially around here. There's a lot more to do. As Anna and Zoe talked about, there's a lot more to do. But let's also talk about what we've done with the American Rescue Plan, making sure that we're able to keep our economy afloat, keep our poverty rate flat, and keep us in the race between injections and infections, especially with dealing with these variants. We passed the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, basically making sure that something that had been talked about for the past few decades actually got done with the leadership of Joe Biden and the leadership of the Democratic majorities in the House and Senate. And that's why you're going to see $1.7 trillion in investment in our country, in our infrastructure, something that's so needed. But obviously, we need to make sure that we're dealing with the most pressing issue right now, and that's inflation. And we can do that through the infrastructure bill, making sure that we invest in our infrastructure, which will help our productivity, which will boost our supply to meet the demand at this point. But we're also going to be working on coming up here this bill called the Competes Act, which basically invests in our domestic manufacturing, making sure that our semiconductor chips are built right here in America. And we're going to be passing that very soon. That also is going to help reduce inflation as well. And then, of course, as Anna talked about, Ukraine, making sure we continue to support the people of Ukraine with aid and armaments, making sure that we continue to have sanctions on Russia to bleed it of its resources that it's using to wage this unjustified war, but then also the solidarity, making sure we continue to be unified behind our efforts to support the Ukrainian people. We must continue to do that, and I think we will do that, and we're going to do it in a unified fashion as we have done. There's a lot more to do, especially coming up in June. June 7th is the primary election. November 8th is the general election. I'm confident that we'll get past the June 7th election and we'll make it into the top 2 going into November. But obviously we're going to continue to need your support. That's why this type of meet and greet is so important. Because you get to know me, you get to hear from me, but more importantly, I get to hear from you as well and know your issues of this area and what we can continue to fight for. And I'm proud to say it just won't be me. I got my partnership right here, thank goodness. I got my partnership up in Sacramento right there as well. That's how we do things here. We're partners. We know we can't do things alone. We know we have to do it together. But we also know we have to do one thing that I'll end by telling you with a story that I heard quite often growing up. It was about this rabbi and a priest. And they wanted to go and get to know each other better, learn about their values and their religions a little bit more. And so they go to a boxing match. And at the boxing match, right before the bell rings, one of the boxers makes a sign of a cross. And the rabbi nudges the priest and says, "What the hell does that mean anyway?" And the priest says, "Not a damn thing if you can't fight." Look, we bless ourselves all the time. We're very blessed to live where we do. I'm blessed to be in this position. But I also know it doesn't mean a damn thing if we can't fight. And so I look forward to making sure that all of us fight together. We will continue our fight in Congress, but we ask you to continue fighting for us and supporting us. So that is why I humbly ask for your support in this election coming up. Thank you very much.
You get a group photo?
Yeah, please.